Most people I've told this story to end up laughing, brushing it off like I'm exaggerating or making things up. But I swear on everything, it really happened, and I still think about it more than I'd like to admit. I've always loved browsing yard sales, especially in the summertime. There's something peaceful about spending a free Saturday just driving around, looking for signs, never knowing what you'll stumble upon. About 2 years ago, I had one of those days to myself, and I decided to do just that, go on a spontaneous treasure hunt. I drove out of town, letting myself wander deeper into the countryside, zigzagging along back roads I'd never taken before. That's usually where the best, lesser-known sales are. Eventually, I spotted a hand-painted yard sale sign propped against a big rock on the side of a narrow road. The rock had something religious carved into it, something like God's Haven or Heaven's Welcome. I honestly don't remember exactly what it said, but the words stuck with me just enough to recognize it as possibly being associated with a church or religious group. I figured they might have good stuff, maybe even antiques or rare finds. So, I turned my Jeep onto the long gravel driveway that led into a wooded area. After a minute or two, the trees gave way to a wide clearing with a pristine white house at the center. It was the kind of home that looked like it belonged on a postcard, clean, peaceful, almost too perfect. Several long tables were set up with the usual yard sale stuff, folded clothes, kids' toys, boxes of books. There wasn't anything that caught my eye, but I wandered around anyway. There were a lot of people there, maybe 30 or so, but something about them felt off. They were all wearing the same thing, dull grey jumpsuits. Men, women, even teens. No one stood out. They didn't really talk. They just milled about, occasionally going to and from a cluster of small shed-like buildings behind the house. The only person who seemed different was a woman sitting behind a folding table with a little cash box. I gave her a friendly nod and started to make my way back to my Jeep when she called out to me. I turned, trying to be polite, and she started chatting me up, smiling wide, talking fast, her eyes flicking from me to the buildings behind her. Then she said something that made my stomach drop. "Yes, we all live here. It's great. Would you like to come in and learn more?" Her tone was overly cheerful, but her eyes had this intensity to them, like a light behind them was flickering too fast. I stammered something like, "Oh no, I've got to be somewhere," but as I turned to leave, she made a small motion with her head. Immediately, 3 of the men in jumpsuits stopped what they were doing and started walking toward us. They didn't say anything, just came over and stood around me, forming a half circle. "Really?" the woman said, reaching for my hand. "Come inside. We preach peace and the word of God. I think you'll really like it here." She started tugging me gently toward the house, and the 3 men stepped closer, boxing me in. I felt my heart beating faster. I didn't know what to do. Say no? Shout? Run? That's when the old man I'd seen earlier, someone I hadn't even really noticed, stepped in. "Sorry, ma'am," he said calmly. "We both really need to get going. I don't think she's interested." There was a pause. The woman looked stunned, her eyes wide, but she let go of my arm. The men backed off a little. The old man put his hand on my shoulder and started guiding me back toward my Jeep. He leaned in close and whispered, "There's something strange going on here. You really need to get out." My hands were shaking by then. As we walked across the yard, every single person in a jumpsuit stopped and stared at us. No one said a word. They just watched. I got to my Jeep and fumbled for the keys. I could barely get them in the ignition. My hands were trembling so badly I almost dropped them. The old man stayed beside me, calm as ever. I turned the key and the engine started, but when I tried to reverse and turn around, the Jeep slid into a shallow ditch beside the driveway. I started to panic. I don't know what to do," I whispered. "I've never used the 4-wheel drive before." He nodded and said gently, "Just take it easy. I'll walk you through it." Step by step, he showed me how to engage the 4-wheel drive, and after a few tense moments, I finally managed to back out of the ditch and straighten the Jeep. I didn't waste another second. I drove out of there as fast as I could without sliding again. As I left the clearing, I shouted back a shaky, "Thank you," and saw the old man give me one last nod before walking to his truck. I've told a few family members and close friends about this. Most just roll their eyes or joke that I wandered into a weird church group meeting. There aren't any cults around here, they say. You probably just caught a church event at someone's house. But that wasn't normal. Nothing about that place felt okay. I've tried to find that road again. I've driven all around that area, looking for the stone with the carving on it, but I've never found it. I honestly think I went too far off grid that day. I didn't know where I was then, and I couldn't find it again now if I tried. All I know is that I got lucky, really lucky, that the old man was there. Because if he hadn't been, I honestly don't think I would have made it back. Not all cults live in the mountains. Some are hiding in plain sight.